To be completely transparent, if I were to think about my love languages and certain arguments that I was having in my relationship, we probably wouldn't have had those certain arguments because we communicate differently, and we have to think about how our partner communicates as well.
Thank you for tuning in to Sip on This with A Paris. About to get lit with these topics. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for the love and your time. Forget to like, comment, subscribe. Without further ado, I bring to you this for you to sip on too.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Sip on This with Adam Paris. For those that are tuning in for the first time, thank you. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe to my channel. It definitely helps out a lot. And we're just going to go ahead and jump right into today's topic. In the spirit of Mental Health Awareness Month, I brought your favorite mental health therapist back from episode 3, I believe, or 2. 1 to 2. Either way. If you know, you know. If you don't, go check it out. But she actually thought about today's episode, which will pertain to love languages and why it affects your mental health. So I'm actually going to let her drive today's episode, and I'm going to be the passenger. So, oh, you know what? I just thought about this. I forgot to do this in my last episode. Although, unfortunately, you can't drink, sis.
No,
what is going to be the first drink that you go to after you drop your princess here?
Ooh, oh my God. There's just so many.
Not so many.
I don't know. Like my go-to was Jack and Coke, so I probably have, a couple Jack and Cokes. Maybe some tequila if I'm feeling a little razzle dazzle.
Yeah, that's what I'm on right now.
But yeah, I don't know. I've been sober for 5 months now. So
how was that going? Because you was like you didn't think you was gonna make it in the first few weeks.
It's definitely an adjustment, but I don't want to put it out there like I'm addicted to anything. But I do like to have my drink or two on the weekends. But I don't know. It's been an adjustment, but it's been easier as time goes on. So eventually I'll get there.
After so much time going by, it seems like your new norm. So you'll probably have to readjust to drinking again.
I know. It'll be a slow, easy transition. I'm not just going to go full throttle in there.
That sounds good, but we'll see.
Yeah.
But anyway, sis, go ahead and kick us off with these love languages.
Yes. So first off, let me reintroduce myself. I am Shaniqua. I am a mental health therapist, a licensed clinical social worker. I've been doing this for, since 26. Well, I graduated 2016. So I say about then I jumped into this profession. So, love languages. So I actually have to make sure I get all 5 because I will forget at least one of them if I don't have something in front of me. So the 5 different love languages are words of affirmation, quality time, receiving gifts, acts of service, and physical touch. Okay. I'll state this disclaimer. I have not yet had a chance to really sit down and read the book by Gary Chapman. I've done a little bit of reading here and there on articles and stuff on the internet, but I actually haven't had the time to fully read his book. I have every intention on doing so. I've just been really busy. But I do this in my psychotherapy groups. So I do groups at a psychiatric hospital on the weekends, and I do a lot about love languages, all these different mental health topics. So love languages is definitely one. So if you have not already, I don't know if you guys can see this in the camera, but if you have not already done this love language quiz, I highly, highly, highly recommend it. Even if you're not in a relationship, it does a lot to tell you about why it is that you communicate love the way that you do, why it is that you may behave the way that you do, or how you act in certain relationships, what you're wanting in certain relationships. I think it goes more than just intimate relationships. I think it could be for family relationships, friendships, whatever type of relationships you have in your life. I think this love language quiz helps out a lot.
Quick question. Where can they find this lovely test that you have gifted me with this afternoon?
Good question. So if you just Google search the 5 love language quiz, what I did today was 5 love language PDF quiz. So you can print it off. I think they have some on apps or something like that. Like there's just different ways that you can access it for free.
Heavy on the free.
Heavy on the free. Because, we are budgeting. So you can print it off. I highly recommend you do it. If you are in a relationship, do it with your partner. You guys just figure out what your love language is. So we'll kind of just start off because me and Adam actually did it today.
Yeah, I just did it. Literally just finished right before I started this video.
So I'll start with mine. So mine is my top love language is acts of service, which I already knew. My second would be quality time. My third is tied between words of affirmation and receiving gifts. And my fourth is physical touch. So I'll let Adam share his, and then we'll kind of break down what each one means.
So let's see. I value quality time the most, which I figured that too. Then words of affirmation, which again makes sense. And then acts of service, receiving gifts, and physical touch. So me and you don't like to be touched.
Don't touch me.
Heavy on the do not touch me. Which I'm not surprised by that because I honestly don't really like to be touched. I feel like we touched on that a little bit in our other episode about how we can be kind of like insensitive. So I wonder if that ties into, it has a little bit to do with that. I don't know. Me personally, I know I'm in therapy, like I told you guys, but just doing a lot of self-reflection, being in therapy, I know why mine is physical touch. And it's more so, I don't think it necessarily has to do with me not being affectionate per se, but it's more so how I grew up. And when I talk about in this episode how I grew up and my dynamic with my parents and my mom and the rest of my family, that is not to bash anybody or anything. Right. That's just how I grew up. Right. So how I grew up, my mom, we don't really hug. Like my family is not really big on hugging. Like I do with my grandmother, of course, but like we're not really big on hugging. I can't really recall many times that we embraced by hugging or like giving each other a kiss or anything like that. So it's not of importance to me to have physical touch as a way of communicating. I always have known that my mother loves me, but she shows me love by doing. Yeah. And that's how I learned how to show love as well. So she's not like a very affectionate type of person. So, I mean, that's why that's kind of like least on my... Yeah. For the same, that's honestly the same exact reason why mine is. I literally only scored a 1 out of 30 for physical touch.
Mine was a 2. It was like 1 point higher than yours.
But yeah, it's like I grew up the same way. Like it's weird because my dad and my sisters are really affectionate. They don't mind hugging, kissing, that whole bit. But me and my mom absolutely do not hug, do not touch. Yeah, it's like you said. My mom more so shows love by the things that she does for me. So yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. And I talk to my patients about this too. So just because that you didn't receive that when you were younger does not always mean that it's not of importance to you. So for instance, someone that didn't receive physical touch may have the opposite effect. They may need that. They may be like, I didn't feel love when I was younger because my mom didn't hug me. Yeah. She didn't kiss me. She didn't show that type of touch and affection that I needed. So I think everybody's story is a little bit different and things may affect everybody differently, if that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. So let's break these down a little bit. Yeah. I'm here for all the notes that you got. I'm a little intrigued. Okay, I tell y'all, I facilitate groups. Okay, I was just about to say, I feel like notes. I'm in a mini group with just the two of us right now. But as you were. So, words of affirmation. So when you take the quiz, the letters A will be for words of affirmation. Words of affirmation meaning like compliments, like you want to be told that you look nice or that that person loves you, or just saying really like good things, positive things. That's something that you need. You need to be affirmed that you loved verbally. Quality time, kind of self-explanatory. You want that person
to spend that time with you undistracted, like no phones, no electronics, like you want to be in that person's presence. You guys want to spend time together, whether it's taking a walk, whether it's going to a movie, whatever it is that is just you and that person, that's quality time. Acts of service, this is my top. So I'll make this about me too. I really appreciate when you do things that I need done without me necessarily having to ask you. So for instance, in my relationship, like my boyfriend might clean the living room without me even having to ask him, and I walk in one day and it's clean and I'm like, oh my God, you love me. So I just really like when you go out of your way to do certain things for me. Like for instance, like your partner brings you or calls you and asks what you want for dinner and you didn't have to tell them that you were hungry. Like I just like things being done without me necessarily having to ask. That shows me that you really care, that you're really thinking about me, that you really love me. Gifts. Kind of self-explanatory too. So disclaimer, when I initially thought about gifts in this section, I thought about how like shallow that is. So like, oh, you want somebody to buy you all these different things. But when I was reading, I was like thinking about, well, one of the things I read actually was basically saying that gifts don't have to be expensive. They could just be thought-provoking. So for instance, like say for instance, someone gets you a very inexpensive gift, but it was something that you were needing.
Like they put extra thought into it.
Yeah, like they actually thought about it. Like you could be saying, oh gosh, I really need some more trash bags for the house. I really need some more trash bags. And then your partner comes in one day with those trash bags that you were needing. I mean, for lack of a better example, but it could be something that's very inexpensive, but it was thought-provoking. Like that person actually really thought about it and actually gave it to you. So I was like, oh, well, if you think about it that way, like, yeah, gifts aren't bad.
I remember, so disclaimer, so technically this is my second, I was telling Shaniqua as I was filling this out, this is actually my second time taking this. Granted, I probably took this for the first time about 2 years ago. And I don't remember all my other results. I just remember that receiving gifts was my number one. And that shocked me because I'm not, for the reason that you just said, right? I feel like saying you're a person that likes receiving gifts, it comes off as if you're shallow. And I'm like, I'm not even pressed for gifts though. So I was just like, I don't care. Like even for birthdays and stuff, I don't look for gifts and stuff like that. So I was surprised when my results said, no, you totally like receiving gifts. But something else that you kind of explained to me that I kind of want you to touch on is the fact that just like how my results changed over time, it's because your love languages can change over time, right?
Absolutely. Yes. We'll get there. Let me explain this last one and then I'm going to go right back to that. Okay. So last one is the physical touch. And that's basically what me and Adam were talking about. That's least on our totem pole. Like, I don't really care about you, like touching me, hugging me, stuff like that. And I explained that basically that has a lot to do with my childhood and my upbringing. But some people, they really need that type of affection. So physical touch is one. So going back. Your love languages can change over time. And if you think about it this way, your experiences change over time. Your relationships change over time. You grow as a person. Well, I hope you're growing as a person. So your love languages are going to change. After a certain relationship, you may feel like certain things are not of as importance to you, or maybe you were lacking something in that relationship that you really needed. So I always encourage people, like, periodically try to take that quiz again and just see where your love language is. Also, when you're taking this quiz, now that I think about it, my patients will say like, oh, it's really a hard decision to pick between the two. Can I pick both? No. Don't pick both. Like, really sit there and think about what it is would you prefer over the other. What could you live without? What can't you live without? Because the object is to really break it down to what is my love language, what is more important to me, what is least important to me. So you really know, like you really can communicate that with your partner and let them know that these things are of importance to me.
That's funny that you bring that up, because I don't know if you peeped, but when I was taking I was thinking out loud when I was taking a lot, when I was just completing this test or whatever, and I kept saying, I would get to a set of questions or whatever, and I would either say, damn, both of these are important to me. I don't know which one is more important over the other. But then I will also come across two where it's like, I don't care about either one of these. So and then, like you said, I'll weigh my options like, am I more pressed for this or more pressed for this? And then I'm indecisive for a lot of things anyway. So I was just like, you know what? I feel this way today. Because like you said, eventually you never know, your mindset may change over time due to your experiences. So
absolutely. And one of the things too that I noticed when I was taking it is that I'm like, I already know mine is acts of service, so let me go ahead and pick the ones that are. Don't do that either. Like really try to think about like your experiences in relationships, whether it be again with family, your partner, whoever it is. Like think about what were the arguments that you got into? What were the times that were like stressful? To try to really nitpick what is more important to me. Like, do I want to receive notes of affirmation? Do I need you to compliment me? Or do I want you to go out and do something for me or bring me a certain gift to know that that's how I need to be loved? So really take your time. I know me and Adam probably did this pretty quickly. But the object is to really like sit and think and really nitpick what is it that is more important to me and what is least important to me. Because if honestly, to be completely transparent, if I were to think about my love languages and certain arguments that I was having in my relationship, we probably wouldn't have had those certain arguments because we communicate differently, and we have to think about how our partner communicates as well.
You said a lot to dissect, actually. So for starters, I caught myself after like the third question. Like you just said perfectly, is everything I just experienced when I was getting in the mindset of taking this, because I was just like, I already know, like, based off of last time, what I'm not. So I tried to avoid
those
selecting those things. But I was like, you know what? No, I'm going to just come in with a clean slate. And actually, as I was going through this, I was like, wait a minute, this feels like a completely different test too, because I don't remember half of these questions. Again, I took it 2 years ago too, though. So it should have felt like a blank slate off that premise. But yeah, as I was going through it, I was trying to like be like, okay, I feel like I've selected like this sort of like topics or whatever, right? So I feel like as of now, this is what my love language may be like as of now. But then when I got to the end, it still surprised me at the end of the day anyway. Like the only one that genuinely did not catch me off guard was the physical touch, because I do not like to be touched. That was a no-brainer. I was like, well, I know. And even as I'm going through, I'm like, yep. That's another touch. I'm not selecting that one. Nope. Yeah. Which one did I select for physical touch anyway? What was that? E. I selected. Damn, where is it?
Probably lost in all these daggone questions.
Oh, so speaking of something I just mentioned, it was two things together that I didn't care for either one really, and clearly I just chose. So it says, kissing me unexpectedly makes me feel love, and giving me a gift for no occasion makes me feel love. Again, I don't really care for gifts anyway, and then I don't really like to be touched. But when I weigh the options, again, I could care less about gifts. And it's like, I guess receiving a kiss that you weren't really expecting is cool. So that's what I'm going to go with. So that's how I ended up with that one out of the 30.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that I was thinking about when I read that question is also, like I said, thinking about gifts differently. Like when you think about getting a gift unexpectedly, it could be like, for instance, like it could be food. It could be something as simple as food. It could be something like a love letter, or someone brought you a card or something. Like it could just be something like, hey, I was thinking of you. Here's this.
You know what? Now that you break it down that way, and since I gave the food option, Maybe I should have went with giving me a gift for no occasion, because I feel so loved when people bring me food. That lets me know they're really... Do you know...
I love a good meal.
I was just about to actually bring up Chase, like her boyfriend, for those that don't know, because they have this fire hibachi place by their house that I go to every... I use that as an excuse to also go see them, because it's on the opposite side of town, and every time I go, I bring these fire cheesesteak egg rolls.
They're so good.
And I bring some for them too. And Chase looks like a kid in the candy store every time I walk in with them damn egg rolls. He's like, "Oh my gosh, for me, this is what I do, Chase." But yeah, that's funny.
Yes. See?
Yeah.
Everybody's love language is different. Like, speaking of him, like, for instance, he probably, and this is just me, like, with an estimated guess based on, we've been together for a long time. So just based on our history and my estimated guess, he's probably around words of affirmation and physical touch. So he's one that likes to be told, "I love you," "you look nice today," or like he wants a hug, he wants a kiss. Like those are his priority love languages. And I notice when I'm more of which is weird, I'm an acts of service person, but I also like giving gifts. So it's kind of weird. I like giving gifts too. Yeah, I do. It's weird that it's a little bit lower on my totem pole for myself, but like I really love giving. And that's how I show my love for my family, for my friends, for my boyfriend. Like I do a lot as far as giving. And so I'll give him these like gifts, but those things don't matter to him as much as me doing something like as simple as giving him a compliment or giving him a hug unexpectedly or doing those "I love yous" and stuff like that. So to piggyback off of what you're kind of getting at too, I was actually going to ask, how does that work for you guys if he's a person that likes to be touched, but you're a person that does not like to be touched? And I'm assuming if you're a person that doesn't like to be touched, you don't like touching other people either. So how does that work out for your dynamic in your relationship? So we have to, we do butt heads a lot because our love languages are so different. And I spend a lot of time trying to tell him and explain to him that certain things make me uncomfortable. Like,
I feel so triggered by this. This isn't about me. Keep going.
But like certain things, like going out of my way to like initiate hugs or initiate kisses with people and stuff like that. Of course, we've been together for some time, so it doesn't make me feel uncomfortable now. But just give an example, like a general example. Certain things like that would make me uncomfortable. Like if I were to see my mom today and I was just to hug her, like me and her both would look at each other like, "Why are you doing that?"
Don't do that.
Don't do that. So it's just certain things that make me feel uncomfortable because it's not my norm. Like being outside of my norm makes me uncomfortable. And one of the things I'm trying to do in therapy is learn how to do things outside of my norm, learn how to do things differently. As me being a mom to be, I want to be that person that gives my daughter physical touch, gives her words of affirmation, like give her the things that I didn't necessarily have. Not to say that my mom did a terrible job. She did awesome with me. Like I love my mom to death. She did great. But I also want to break that you need to be a strong Black woman tradition. That is where we don't necessarily do all the affection stuff. You got to toughen it out. You got to be strong. I want to show her strength in a different way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I get it. Dang, it was something else that you touched on too. Hold on, let me look back at this.
Yeah, there's a lot with love languages that you guys can get into.
Something that you touched on too that I think is interesting is the fact that I think a lot of people will actually be surprised at the amount of men that probably say that words of affirmation is very important to them too, because the way that society is, a lot of guys are taught to basically be like robotic, as if we don't have emotions or whatever. And like as a man, it is a good feeling knowing, like just receiving compliments. And honestly, because of the way that society is and like how we're supposed to be built to be like emotionless or whatever, I'm actually bad at, it's weird because words of affirmation is high up there on my list too, but I do not do well with receiving compliments from anybody. Like, it's kind of like, it's like, I don't know how to explain it. It's like, it makes me feel nice, but at the same time, it's like,
makes you uncomfortable.
Ew. Yeah, it makes me uncomfortable.
Makes you cringe.
Yeah. And it also, I think I may have touched on this in another episode. I can't remember which one specifically, but I feel like I said one time that, like, it also kind of makes me uncomfortable, especially when it's already kind of uncomfortable even when women compliment me, but it's especially uncomfortable when another man compliments me for something like, it could be something as simple as, oh, your haircut is fresh or your sneakers are nice. I'm kind of like, thanks. Like, I don't know why that is, though. That's so weird.
I can't speak for yourself, but on just based on my experience as a therapist, a lot of times people have issues with receiving compliments because they don't feel that way about themselves internally. So it makes them uncomfortable when other people compliment them. Because it's not something you internally feel. I'm really big on self-esteem and self-worth. I tell my patients all the time, like, I could tell you that you're the greatest person ever, that you're awesome, you do great at this, you're smart, you're beautiful. However, if you don't internally feel that, it means nothing. It's like going in one ear and out the other. That's something, self-esteem is self. Like, you have to work on yourself in order to feel that. So, I mean, I can't, like I said, I can't speak on your behalf, but I know that that's what makes people uncomfortable. For me, per se, compliments don't, like, I like compliments. I can't say that they make me feel uncomfortable because I have I won't say a really high self-esteem, but I have a pretty good self-esteem where I feel the compliments that I receive, I feel that way about myself sometimes. So it doesn't make me like, but I'll say that it's not of big priority for me to have it. Yeah.
That's weird. Like, everything you said makes perfect sense, but it's weird because even sometimes where I feel like I'm that guy, when I say I'm that guy, I'm saying, like, at times, like, I'm sure a lot of guys can attest to the fact that after you get a haircut, you really feel like you the shit and nobody can tell you different. So it's like, after I get that haircut still, or maybe it just also depends on who that person is. If it's a person that maybe is more affectionate to me and I'm not used to that person showing me specifically affection and they give me compliments, maybe that's when the awkwardness kind of kicks in. I don't know.
I think uncomfortability is like the baseline for all of it. Like, things that are outside of your norm are going to make you feel uncomfortable.
Now that makes sense, yeah.
So, like, physical touch outside of your norm is going to make you feel uncomfortable. Yeah. And I think just we as people, like, when you're in therapy and when you're doing mental health, is really working getting outside of your comfort zone, because if you stay there, there's no growth, there's no development there. So you have to do things that'll make you feel uncomfortable. So for me in my relationship, I have to do physical touch. I have to do words of affirmation. I'm trying to be better at it.
All the things that are lower on your priority list.
Yes. Now, Chase will get up here and say, I don't do those things, but I try. It's a work in progress for me because it's literally unlearning. I'm 28? Yeah. Like, it's literally unlearning 20 plus years of a certain habit, a certain way of doing things. Like, Chase is my longest relationship, so it's really relearning those things. And a lot of times I'm trying to get him to understand that change doesn't happen overnight. And I know that it's been like a long period of time, but it's really like 20 plus years of unlearning certain behaviors. And it's not to say that I'm forgetting the things that are important to me. It's more so me adjusting to change, to accommodate and compromise. That's the word I'm looking for. Compromise with my partner. Because if you're in a relationship, you want to do things that don't just benefit yourself, benefit your partner. So, yeah.
Dang, it was something. I was trying to hold my thought and let you finish yours, but I lost my train of thought that fast. But I feel like it had something to do with, again, the fact that, I know what it was now. So I think, like, how do I word this, though? So basically, to throw it out there and then try to, like, reword it after I say it, I guess, is the fact that oftentimes when you're on the receiving end, like, you're the person with the actual problem, right? Like, for instance, like, put myself in Chase's shoes. Hi, Chase. So if Chase is like, Shaniqua, you don't hug and kiss me enough, and you don't give me words of affirmation enough, whatever. But you, on the other hand, feel like, well, I feel like I'm making little strides or whatever, but they still seem to go unnoticed. That's why I feel like the tension and stuff
absolutely.
comes into
You
play.
butt heads like that.
Yeah.
One of the things I would suggest, though, is trying to view things from your partner's opinion. Validate their feelings first. Because they may, even though you feel like you're trying, like you feel like you're doing the things to show them love. And I think they actually touched on it in one of the articles I was reading about how you feel like you're just doing everything that you need to do to show them that they're loved, but internally they're not feeling that way. I feel like a lot of those arguments can be settled just by having a conversation and communicating. Like, okay, because you don't feel that I'm doing this. What is it that you need from me to show you? Like, do you need me to do X, Y, and Z more? Or do you need me to not do this? Like, what is it that you need from me so I know that I'm doing it properly? Because just because a person's thing is words of affirmation doesn't mean that you telling them I love you every night. You telling them I love you every night is everything for them. You have to really communicate and break down, what does that mean? Words of affirmation is it, but what does that mean underneath that? And then compromise and figure out what that's going to look like. Okay, be patient with that person if that's not their norm, but also communicate what it is that you're needing, because we're not mind readers. We need to know what it is that you're needing from
That's funny
person.
that you say that, because I'm probably about to trigger some people when I say this, but I feel like I'm going to say it anyway. I feel like more so women expect guys to just know certain things, especially the longer you're in a relationship with them. It's like, okay, like for instance, like, oh, you touched on this slightly in our last discussion where you was like, I can't remember the actual example you gave, but you were like, the person kept sweeping the fact.
Oh, passive aggressive communication.
Yeah, it was like I think it was the thing with the dishes or something like that, right?
Yeah, it was.
Where it's like that one moment that causes the person to snap, and the person on the receiving end is like, yo, like, where did that come from or whatever, and they never knew something was wrong until you waited last minute to communicate what the issue was, when had you attacked it the first time it happened, chances are they would adjust their behavior going forward. But a lot of people just feel as though people should be mind readers. So
but to play devil's advocate, I've met a lot of men that are exactly that same way as well. That you just kind of expect people to know what it is based on, and a lot of people do this just because of actions. Like, you've seen how I move, you've seen how I do certain things, so you should just know that I don't like X, Y, and Z, and I need you to do X, Y, and Z, and that's not how this works. Okay, you need to not only do by action, but you need to verbally communicate what it is that you need. Otherwise, you can't get mad at a person just because they should just be seeing what it is that you need. For instance, like my body language, sometimes I have, resting bitch face. But I'm not angry. Or sometimes I'm like, look like I'm disinterested or on board, but that's not how I'm feeling. I'm just calm, I'm relaxed, I'm just chilling. So you just can't go based on somebody's body language and their actions and just jump to conclusions from there that they should automatically know what is going on in your head and how you're feeling about certain things.
That's so funny that you say that, because although this doesn't have to do with mental health, like I saw this thing on TikTok the other day when it was talking about, it was a funny video about zodiacs, and I can't remember specifically what zodiacs this pertained to, but it was like, if these sets of zodiacs tell you that nothing is wrong with them, and you assume something is wrong with them, prepare for an argument, because they're going to snap on you because they meant what they said. If they don't have an issue about anything and they're just like calm, they're chilling or whatever, like you're asking for an argument at some point. And I don't know if my zodiac, so speaking of my zodiac, Gemini season is coming up. Actually, it kicked off today. Anyway, that's another topic for another day. But for me, I feel that way because I feel like I'm somebody that's known to always be so energetic that when I'm finally cool, calm, and collected, people always assume something's wrong with me. I'm upset about something. And it's like, no, I don't have to be on 10 24/7. Like, I like to be chilling sometimes too. Like, absolutely. I can get really quiet at times too. Like, that's just, I feel like that's being a well-rounded person. Like, I don't know, but in other words, just don't jump to assumptions and conclusions because you'll jump into a fight.
That's what us in mental health terms call a cognitive distortion.
Okay, terms.
But just to kind of add to that too, just because you've said something before, don't automatically assume that a person still knows what's going on or is still going to behave in a certain way just because you said it before. Sometimes you have to remind people. Sometimes you have to continue that conversation. Sometimes it's like very tedious and you feel like, I've said this multiple times, so I don't have to kind of say it again. But you have to be really consistent and communicate in your relationships, especially if it's something that you guys can like move forward from. Now, I can't speak for everybody's relationship. Like, if you feel like you've been saying the same thing 10 times and you've just been beating a dead horse and you're not getting anywhere, okay, then maybe it's time to part ways. But if it's something that you feel like you guys can grow past, it's just something that has to be a continuous effort, just continue to communicate. I think a lot of relationships would be better if you just learn how to communicate and learn a person's love language and how they want to be loved too.
To piggyback off of what you were just saying, essentially what I think people may know this, but maybe they know it but just find a hard time applying this concept. And the concept is the fact that you learn through repetition. Like, a lot of people feel as though, I said this one thing this one time. You should have been able to take that in this one time and apply it every situation going forward. But what people don't realize is, no, some people do learn fairly quickly. You don't need to beat them over the head so many times to get them to understand a certain concept. But some people, I feel like more times than not, more people need something to be taught to them like time and time again. And you being the person with the issue, you need to understand it's a learning process for this person. And I have to understand that at the end of the day, it's just a process, and I need to learn patience. Because patience is key. Right.
Patience is key.
And I'm not going to lie, all this stuff sounds so good. And again, I can attest to the fact, too, in retrospect, back when I was in a relationship, I definitely lacked patience. And then I was one of those people that was kind of just like, okay, I've said this incident, why do you not understand it? So again, that goes back into lacking patience. So
I think a lot of relationships quit because we lack the patience and we're not willing to accept and fight the challenges. We're more so, I can attest to it myself. Like, before my current relationship, I didn't put up with no bull. Like, you crossed me once, that was it. Like, I'm done. I don't feel like I need to argue with you. I'm not an argumentative person. Like, I don't like to do that. So if I felt like it was happening too often, that's it. I'm done. I'm walking away. Like, I wasn't really accepting of challenges when it came to relationships, friendships, whatever it was. I was just willing to cut the person off.
Trigger,
now that I've gotten older, I've learned a little bit more patience with people, and I've learned to just grow, and that everybody's different. So I just have to figure out how to communicate appropriately, let them know what it is that my expectations are, figure out what their expectations are, and just kind of move forward from there.
Dang, it was something else that you said too. I swear, I feel like I have amnesia sometimes, because I'm just like, not amnesia, Alzheimer's. Because it's just like, I'll have something, I'll try to wait for you to finish your thought, and when I try to go back to it, that thought is gone.
It's okay. Well, if it pops up, it's okay. I got something else I wanted to talk about too.
Yeah, well, you can go off, because this isn't coming back. Whatever that thought was, it's absolutely out of my mind at this point.
So, one of the things I do in my group too, again, I work in a psychiatric hospital part-time. That's where I do my groups. So one of the things that we talk about too is trauma, and how trauma has a lot to do with our love languages.
That makes sense.
For instance, one of the easiest examples is someone that's been through some type of sexual abuse or sexual trauma. Maybe physical touch is not your love language.
Right.
It's not your love language at all.
Right.
Or it could be the opposite. So for all my mental health therapists, counselors, whatever, usually when we see a child that's hypersexual, that's an indication for us that they've been through some type of trauma before, some type of abuse before. So for instance, my teenage girls, if you see a teenage girl that's like maybe having sex with everybody, being with everybody, maybe you look into her background, she's been through some type of physical abuse before. Same thing goes for the boys too. So when we're like growing up and learning these different love languages, we're learning how to love, like how to receive love, how to give love. So if all you're taught when you're younger is an abusive trait of what love looks like, a lot of times you're going to fall back into that cycle. Unless you're some individual that's extremely resilient or has some type of intervention in that time to change, you're likely going to fall back into that cycle.
Yeah, that makes sense too.
So maybe physical touch isn't your thing, or maybe words of affirmation is a trigger point for you because older men were giving you compliments or older women were giving you compliments, and that was some type of trauma for you. So I like to point that out too. So when I'm doing this work, most people that I encounter that I'm treating have been through some type of trauma.
Right.
So I'm telling them to put your trauma into account of why your love language is what it is today.
I think to the point that you were touching on, essentially, I think people really don't realize how their past affects, I want to say their future, but that's not really what I want to say. How
their present?
I don't like the way that sounds either.
Their current?
I don't know how I want to say it.
Whatever.
It's how basically their past can just constantly have an effect on them until they seek therapy, until... and you know what? I feel like more times than not, unfortunately, a lot of people have been through trauma and don't even realize it was actual trauma that they were experiencing. And then instead of having a relationship with someone that recognizes certain cues to let them know, okay, this person needs to seek help, but the person on the receiving end is like, what are you talking about? I'm completely normal. And like you said, due to their lack of patience, lack of communication, lack of just being open-minded about receiving like criticism about themselves or whatever, and that just is a recipe for disaster, which is why I feel like a lot of relationships, like you said, a lot of people just don't want to put the time and effort into what it takes to actually build a healthy relationship.
Absolutely.
So they end up, these two people don't work out. The person with the trauma moves on to someone new, but they still bring that unresolved trauma along with them.
You absolutely bring your baggage wherever you go. I call it emotional baggage. So, I'm a visual person, so you'll know this. Like when I'm talking, I'm very visual. So I tell my patients and my clients, like, you bring yourself wherever you go, especially for my people that are addicted to certain things, because you'll meet people that have been addicted that have been through several different rehabs and several different treatments. And one of my biggest questions for them is, what's going to be different this time for you? Because you are bringing yourself wherever you go. You look for something, you're going to go find it. And a lot of times people, again, are uncomfortable with change and uncomfortable with things that are not outside of their norm. So maybe you switch up relationships so often because a person is challenging you to be different. And they're challenging you to be different. They're bringing up certain trigger points that are related to your trauma, and you're not ready to deal with that. So you just jump ship to someone that's different. But that's not helping you grow. That's not helping you be a better person. You're just trying to bypass. And one of the things I tell people all the time, like, yes, you bring your baggage with you wherever you go, but if you keep piling stuff up into your little, I'll call it a trauma box for lack of better terms.
Yeah.
You keep piling stuff into that box. You don't know when that box is going to explode. You don't know when, how, what circumstances. You don't know anything about what that's going to look like. So it's so important that you safely and securely, even if it's outside of therapy. I'm a big advocate for therapy, though. But even if it's outside of therapy, if you don't learn how to unpack those things, it's going to explode at some point, and you don't know what that's going to look like. It may be comfortable for you to not have to deal with it for right now, but you wait till later and it could be worse.
Yeah, I feel like the longer you wait, the worse it will get. It's just like with any other health issue, right?
Yeah.
Because like you were explaining in our first initial mental health discussion, you were talking about how you only have like one mind, one body, right? So it's like people need to tap into the fact and acknowledge the fact that if your mental health state is not healthy, if it's left unresolved, it's only the status of your health is just going to continue to decrease over time.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, okay, so I think, don't quote me, but I think the definition of insanity is something along the lines of continuously doing something,
the same things over and over,
but expecting different results.
Yes.
And that's the same thing when it comes to your mental health. How can you expect for your mental health to improve and your trauma to be resolved if you never address it?
Absolutely. And then I think I probably mentioned this in my in the previous one. Big on analogies as well. So it's like the soda ball effect when we're talking about bottling all of our emotions in. You just keep holding it. You pile things on. Eventually that cap's going to open and it explodes.
Right.
And everybody's going to look at you like, where the hell did this come from?
Right.
That's why it's so important that we just work on ourselves, especially if you're thinking about developing a relationship, you're thinking about futuristic terms, marriage, kids, whatever. Bettering yourself first, making sure that you're a healthy individual so you can be healthy in your relationship, so you can be a healthy parent. And that's one of the things that I'm working on within myself. No, I haven't been through like a specific abusive trauma or anything like that. But I'm trying to unlearn the things that are uncomfortable for me, because I would hate for my child to try to come up to me and hug me and kiss me, and I'm like, it's just not my thing.
And then since you're responsible for molding that person and how they show love and receive love, that's a lot. I feel like it takes a person, like that's big of a person to acknowledge that and make that ultimate decision, like, okay, this is going to stop with me. I can't have this continue for like generations down the road or whatever. People, especially black people, I feel like I may have touched on this in maybe another episode or not, I can't remember, but how black people tend to, it was our mental health discussion where you were like, black people tend to pass trauma down to like generation, but it takes a big person to acknowledge, okay, this is not healthy, this should not continue, I'm going to be the person that stops this going forward.
I have frequent conversations about that. I think it just has a lot to do with being a black person in society. You have to be stronger. You have to be better. So we grow up in households that show us how to be 10 times better than our counterparts, because that's what we have to do. But strength is shown in different ways. You can be emotionally strong. You can be physically strong. You can just be mentally strong. Like it's shown in different ways. Like just because I have to do things maybe 10 times better does not mean that I can't be frustrated with that. Doesn't mean that I can't cry about it. That doesn't make you any less stronger of a person. It just, you're strong in a different way. You're able to be emotionally strong and show that this affects me. I don't like it.
Something I was I'm going to throw this out there before I forget this. So, something I wanted to throw out there real quick is the fact that I feel like growing up as a black person, we're taught tough love. And so when people outside of our culture don't understand the way we come off about certain things, they just look at us like as if we're like rough around the edges, but they don't understand that that's just the way that we were brought up in many of our households. And like, for instance, like if I can think of a quick example, think about how our group like talks to one another.
We talk crazy to each other.
It's like heavy on the disrespect.
We are so disrespectful.
Disrespectful.
I tell people all the time, like, I'm not really that cool with you unless I like disrespect you a couple times.
Right, and I feel like, and I see that on social media all the time. People are like, I really don't rock with you if I don't disrespect you. Like, if I don't talk to you crazy.
If I don't talk to you, I'm mean to everybody.
And the thing is, it's like, is that really right at the end?
No, it's not. It's not. Because
like,
everybody
really
probably looks at
funny.
us crazy.
Crazy.
I'm like, but that's just my way of showing. I still am like affectionate towards you in that way. Like I still love you, but it's just once I'm comfortable with you, like I'm mean to you, and that's just how I am. That's how my mom. If you guys ever meet my mom, she's mean. She's mean. That's where I get it from. Like, we're just mean, but that doesn't mean that we love you any less. It's just how we are.
Yeah, I love messing with her mom. I actually just saw her mom right before this episode because we stay in the same neighborhood. And I drove up to her car and mess with her all the time. And she hates it, but I love it. I get a thrill out of it. So, like, I went up to her and we had a conversation. And she said something, and I was like, why do you always act like you hate me and you love me? I just don't get it. Like, just admit that you love me.
She's
Just
mean, and
say
she does love Adam, but she's
Yes.
just mean. She's naturally a mean person. But we still love our like friends, our family, and everybody. That's just how we show love.
Yeah.
It's just different.
Yeah, it never fails too. Like when people hang out with our group for the first time, they're always like shocked. They're just like, oh, y'all are spicy.
Yeah, like we're not, like I'm not texting my friends like, hey guys, love you, hope you have a great day.
Absolutely not.
That if they, like, if I do that, they're like literally like, are you in the hospital?
Yeah,
like,
everyone would
wrong?
be worried. Absolutely. just like I thought about the fact that I bet if everyone we know takes this, most people are not going to like physical touch. Because we don't even hug each other in our group. The only time we really hug is if it's people that have moved, like kind of like far away, and we haven't seen them for a while, and they come back. We'll hug because we don't know when we're necessarily going to see that person again. But for us that live here in the city, it's like, fuck you. Like,
I don't need a hug. You, see you later, peace.
Right. We'll drop a bye bitch, bye hoe. It's disrespectful.
It's so disrespectful. But I think I can do that. I don't think that makes us bad people, though. Like, I feel like we could do that in our friend group because we have that natural understanding that at the end of the day, we're family. Like, we call each other friends, but we're like family. We call each other cousins, like brothers, fathers, whatever. Like, we're family. So I think that we can do that in our friend group. Everybody's different. But I think I said this in the last podcast, is you have to cater to your audience. You be able to read the room. Like, I'm not going to do that with someone that I'm still getting to know or like we're building a friendship. I'm not going to just like out the blue just be like, hey, bitch.
But honestly, too, speaking on that, though, it's even like, I feel like at the end of the day, although we come up from the outside looking in, people probably think we disrespect the shit out of each other, right? But at the end of the day, we have like, I feel like we have unspoken boundaries depending on the person that you're talking to too. It's like I may talk to this person this way and call them this particular thing, but I wouldn't take that same energy and apply it to this person. So it all deals with, like you said, just catering to certain people. Like knowing what their boundaries and stuff are, whatever.
Knowing their love language, guys.
Hey, it goes all the way back to this. That was a nice little
like segue. Knowing their love language. Yes, knowing how to communicate with someone is also kind of a way of knowing their love languages. Like some of my friends are a little bit more sensitive, so I may give them a hug or I may embrace them or give them words of affirmation. Some of them, they can handle the tough love. They can handle the mean Shaniqua. They got thicker skin, so they can handle that.
Thankfully, you know what? She's not going to like what I'm about to say. Thank God I got thick skin, because pregnant Shaniqua has been so mean to me.
I have not.
Shaniqua has been so mean to me this whole pregnancy. I can't wait for Chastity to get here. Oh my God.
It's not been that bad.
I'm not really bothered by it. It's funny to me, honestly.
Speaking of pregnant, physical touch. If I don't know you, please don't touch my belly.
See, the spicy pregnant Shaniqua just jumped out. She let you guys know up front. So now they can't say, oh, you exploded on me for no reason. You haven't dealt with something. No, because she put the disclaimer out there.
I'm putting the disclaimer out there. If I don't know you, please don't touch my belly.
I always
Like, don't do
wonder.
that.
I always wonder if women like were okay with that.
What, touching belt? Some women are fine with it. I think I know a lot that are not. Like, I know a lot at certain points they're just like, okay, like, leave me alone. Me personally, if I know you, like, we're friends, it doesn't bother me. Like, all my friends are like wanting to touch my belly, except for one friend. And I just be picking with her. Like, it doesn't bother me at all. Like, I don't mind them touching my belly. And a lot of times I'll have a couple of people like ask me like, hey, is it okay if I touch your belly? But I haven't had this happen, but I'm just stating a disclaimer. Like, please do not touch any random person's belly. I think I talked to, I did. I absolutely talk to my clients about this all the time. We don't know everybody's love language. Okay. So you can't do certain things with people that you don't know their love language. Like, for instance, physical touch. Like we said, we don't like to be touched. I don't want some stranger trying to hug me or like doing anything like anywhere within my means of like touching me. So like if I have, some of my clients, I work with geriatrics, so they're a lot of older people are big on physical touch. They want to hug you. They want to hold your hand. So I have to, in order to build rapport, I have to cater to what their love language is. But like I tell my clients, you don't know someone's story. So if you try to go up to a person that's maybe crying and you hug them, you could trigger them. So you have to be very careful about what you do with people. Like the best policy probably is just to ask for permission. Like, is it okay if I hug you? It sounds very tedious, but like it probably will go a long way. Is it okay if I sit here and talk with you? Is it okay if you talk with me and I just listen? Like, ask the person questions before you just go off gate and just do your own thing.
I think that's, I'm glad that you actually touched on this a bit, because I think a lot of people really don't think that deeply about what they do and how it can potentially affect somebody, especially if they don't know them. I always felt that was weird that people think, oh, I'm this way with most people, I can apply this to everybody. Everybody's different.
Everybody's different.
I'm glad that you put that out there, and I hope the right people are listening to this, because this definitely speaks to you. Put this into practice. But I actually just realized that we're actually almost up on our time too.
Oh, we are.
This actually went pretty fast.
This did.
So since we're pretty much up on our time, sis, is there anything else you want to state to kind of wrap up our love language discussion, or anything else that you feel like to wrap up Mental Health Awareness Month?
Oh, mental health. Well, let's start with love language first. Again, try this love language quiz out. Try it periodically throughout your life as your relationships change, as you grow as a person, as your experiences happen. Try this love language out, love language quiz out, because 9 times out of 10, it probably will change. Like the love languages I probably had as a child, they don't mean as much to me right now as an adult. And then I'll probably take it again maybe in a couple of years, and it'll probably be different because I'll have a child. So I would always encourage you guys to just try it out, see how it does, how you do with it periodically. And speaking of from someone that's in a relationship, if you know your partner's love language, it could mediate and help out a lot of arguments.
I heard a lot of people actually say that, though. A lot of people were like, once they took this and figured out each other's love languages, they were able to better cater to their partner or whatever.
Absolutely, because a lot of times, and I'll just speak from my experience, I've told you guys, I'm not an argumentative person. So one of the things I have to work on is not biting my tongue, because I will bite my tongue if I feel like it's an unnecessary argument that's going to happen.
I would do that too. But
biting my tongue builds. So for instance, this doesn't happen, but I'm just giving an example. But for instance, say Chase, I have to remind Chase constantly, I'm acts of service. I have to remind Chase constantly to clean or take out the trash each and every day. By Saturday, I'm building, and I'm not telling him how much it bothers me. By Saturday, he he leaves a dish in the sink after I've cleaned, I'm blowing up. Because I didn't tell him the things that were bothering me and letting him know that this is my love language and this is what I want under that love language. This is what I'm expecting. So yeah, like a lot of arguments can be resolved, compromised with just knowing what your partner's love language is. I won't say that this is just a tool.
Right.
Like this is not the end all be all.
Right.
Like I was reading something in that article that said that people might utilize this as the end all be all for your relationship. Like as long as I know my partner's love language, we're good. No. This is just a tool of a way to communicate. There's so many different ways that people need to learn how to communicate better, but this is just a tool that helps you with communicating better. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And did you want to speak anything else about, to close out Mental Health Awareness Month?
Oh, yeah. So Mental Health Awareness Month, I highly recommend, if you don't already, again, this is not me being biased, but I highly recommend that you guys do something for your mental well-being. Of course, I'm going to recommend a therapist. That's just because that's what I do. I know that it helps. But even if professional therapy isn't necessarily your thing, there's so many other means of improving your mental well-being, whether it's meditating, whether it's going to seek spiritual healing, going to your whatever religious institute that you utilize, but something outside of just yourself. Like, I think it benefits people to talk, and not, when I say mental health awareness and doing something for your mental well-being, I don't mean just like gossiping with your friends, like seeking advice from your friends. I know I get a lot of my friends seeking advice from me because I'm a therapist, but no, like seeking someone outside of you, because when you go to people that are family or friends, they have a different vested interest in you than if you were to go to a professional or someone that's completely unbiased, a clean slate. They don't know anything about you. And plus, I find it more comfortable to talk to someone that doesn't know anything about me, about very deep and personal stuff. Not to say that I don't trust my friends and my family and my boyfriend, whatever. It's more so because I know that I'm not being judged and they don't have a vested interest into me, and they're not like worried that something's gonna happen or like I'm like really doing something bad or like it's a complete clean slate. Like they don't know, they're not interested in me in that way. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So yes, highly recommend that you do something for your mental well-being. Be proactive about it. Like, even though something may not be a problem right now, I think a lot of mental health issues and crisis issues can be prevented if people were proactive. For instance, you go to the dentist for cleanings. You go to the doctor for physical checks. Just because you want to be proactive in case something were to happen with your body or your teeth. Do the same thing with your mental health. Your mind is part of your body. So I don't understand why people aren't proactive with it. You could just do mental health check-ins or just do whatever it is that you need to do just to be mentally well.
We touched on that specifically in our first discussion.
Yes.
Too. Yeah.
Absolutely. I stand by that.
Yeah. As far as what I'm doing, I just booked the trip, so that's what I'm doing for my mental well-being. But anyway, thank you again, sis, for pulling up on today's episode and diving into these lovely love languages. And of course, per usual, I'm going to put all my good sis information in the description down below. If you made it this far, again, do me a solid, like, comment, subscribe. It really does wonders for, just my channel. And then also, it was something else I was going to say too in that split second. Completely forgot. Maybe I'll remember it for next episode.
Comment, subscribe.
Yeah.
Oh, give like topics or something.
Oh yeah. If it's topics that you guys want to hear us discuss in future episodes, don't feel shy. Go ahead, send at least a DM. I feel like more people have been DMing, or especially people we know, they will tell us in person, hey, like, I like this discussion, but I think you should make this a topic for next discussion. And it's different if you don't know me. I don't know what your thoughts are. So that's what the comment section is for, people. Use it.
Yes.
Be respectful because we're spicy. We don't like that stuff. Don't do that. But anyway, thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed that episode. Until next time, deuces.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to Sip on This with A Paris. About to get lit with these topics. Drop your thoughts in the comments.